Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Allcott channel. It is that time of the season. It's time to start predicting. We're kicking off with the Championship. I'm going to give you my run through from 24 up to the winners of the Championship this season. My beloved Queen's Park Rangers, I can exclusively reveal, will be in there somewhere. Woohoo! If you haven't checked out the one to watch video, one player from every single Championship team, that video is out right now, so make sure you check that out if you're a Championship fan. Let's get straight into this. Actually, before we do, could you hit subscribe for me? Could you? Thank you. Right, let's kick off. We're going to start off down the bottom and work our way up, a bit like me in the bedroom. Too much? Number 24. I'm going to go with Rotherham. I'm going to go with Rotherham. Sorry, and Rotherham fans, you won't enjoy that. There'll be an enjoyment with the joke, surely. And then just heartbreak as I then laughed and said Rotherham. I don't want them to go down. I'd really love them to stay up. I just can't see it happening. They were sort of pipped to the League One title last year and were one of the dominant forces in the division throughout. Only conceded 33 goals. But the losses have not been adequately replaced, in my opinion. And I think it's one where you can't be sort of not sure if you've even reached the level of the previous season when you come up from League One. You need to step up and improve the squad. And so to lose players like Michael Ihekwe, lose like players like Ladapo, scored many goals for them last year, Smith as well, Michael Smith in particular, absolutely crucial. And to bring in the likes of Tom Eaves and Connor Washington, it's just not anywhere near good enough to stay up when you look at how loaded the mid-table is this year. There's no easy games in the Championship. And so a lack of firepower for me and an inability to bring in anyone that much more exciting than that will make it very difficult for Warne. And I wonder if this will be the last season that Warne is manager of Rotherham, because he's kind of getting a CV where there's a lot of promotions, but there's a lot of relegations as well. And you kind of need to make that next step. And it's just not happened with Rotherham as of yet, but hopefully they prove me wrong. 23rd spot, Birmingham City. The reason they've got to be down there, really, I mean, they've struggled for numerous seasons. Were fortunate with the points deductions that were there for Derby and Reading last year. I think that obviously helped them massively. Bowyer, of course, is gone. John Eustace has come through the door. And I like John Eustace, despite his exploits in Football Manager. If you know, you know. But it just doesn't feel right, does it? You know, numerous years where they're struggling. The signings that have come in haven't really excited you too much. The only attacking signing, I think, so far is Placheta. You've lost the likes of Ivan Sanchez, I think, which is a huge, huge loss for them. Pedersen as well, I think, is a massive loss for him. He's gone to FC Cologne, which is a bit of a step up for him, maybe. Sunjic as well has gone. Bella's gone. I just feel like it's a light squad. There's a couple of decent signings. Sanderson's come in. He was terrible for QPR, but I know Birmingham City fans do like him, and as a young player as well, I think it's a great signing in terms of him. And you've got yourself a centre-back in Trusty, who I think you can believe in. But overall, it just doesn't bode well, does it, for Birmingham City? I think the feeling around the club, which I think is so important in the Championship, is also in a really bad place. And up top, Hogan does score goals. Deeney, he's coming to the end of it, if I'm honest. Jukovic has his moments as well, but overall, just not anywhere near enough creative quality to score the goals to stay up once again. And a back line that is steady, but overall, I think is going to struggle this year. Final team that's going to be going down is Reading, and this is where I wanted to kind of talk about management, because I think what always happens every year, and this is something when you're doing your predictions, I think you do need to kind of keep in mind, is the manager, and if the manager takes the team forwards or backwards, and also if the manager is going to survive, because 9-10 managers go every single season, and there's a few here. John Eustace, I would be amazed if he gets to the end of the season, just because of the turmoil that feels like is at Birmingham City right now. Warne could be one of those, especially the teams down the bottom when they're struggling. They do change the manager often. And Paul Ince, I think, is another one. Paul Ince, again, I might be completely unfair, but it's just my overall take on it, is that it will be tactically limited just because it's someone who's been out of the game for so long, stepped in. And I think what he's going with is experienced heads, you know, like his son, like Sam Hutchinson, like Shane Long, to replace some really big players for them in like Josh Lauren, Swift, of course, as well. That's a lot of goals, and a lot of goals that mean a lot of points that they're going to lose. And they just about survived last year. And so because of that, I think the loss of Swift in particular is such a big loss that the focus on Lucas João, and if Lucas João does well, they, I think, actually would be fine. But without him, which is often the case because he's often injured, I think they could be struggling this year. And that's why I think Paul Ince won't survive the season, and I think Reading will get relegated. It is a bit of a toss-up here because Reading might actually survive if, they do have that experience which will allow them to kind of, the sort of bottom level of performance will be less poor or less low than if they had a team littered with youth team players, in my opinion. Because I don't think you'll have players that will down tools because they'll have that element of pride in them. Will they have the physicality to enable it themselves? I don't know. And that's why I've got them going down there. But it could be Blackpool. It could be Blackpool. I don't like what I'm seeing at Blackpool at the moment. Fiorini's come in. Apart from that, not much really happening for Blackpool this year. And in Michael Appleton, something I wasn't aware of, because I think he's a very good coach, despite having an average season with Lincoln last year. The season before, I think he did well. And I think that hopefully he's got some contacts that can bring in some more players between now and the end of the transfer window. But from what I read, it seems like Michael Appleton and the Blackpool fans don't have the greatest of kind of relationships there. And so it could be one that kind of, where they struggle that little bit, despite him being a sort of very professional and a decent guy. Last season, the open play XG was 37.6, which isn't amazing. What's even worse is he only scored 31 open play goals. So I think there's a lack of goals in this team. Bowler, it's going to be interesting to see if he stays or goes. If he stays, I think that obviously helps them. But overall, I just feel like it's a team that's kind of come up and had that adrenaline. Critchley, of course, has left as well. And I think he's taken with him a lot of the ingenuity that got them victories and draws last year. And I just wonder if he was squeezing every last bit out of that squad. And now it's one, like a few of the squads in this division this year, where when there is that drop-off, they're then going to make it a little bit tricky for Blackpool. Next up, in 20th position, Liam Richardson's Wigan Athletic. This is a tricky one because they haven't really strengthened as of yet. Of course, won League One. And what I did like was the sort of control that they had over games. The sort of game management was very, very impressive throughout the season. And they do have good experience in that Wigan Athletic side, if not any kind of huge star power and people that are kind of thriving in the Championship. But they've got a lot of players there that I think, in the right environment, a bit like we were talking with Blackpool, coming up, good manager, good excitement in terms of the new season. I'm hopeful that they can be solid this year and kind of win games when the other team isn't totally at the races. And I think a lot of teams will kind of look at Wigan Athletic and go, well, easy victory here, and then actually come up a cropper, really. So Ryan Nyambe is the only proper decent signing so far this season, which is a good signing for him, good Championship player. You've got likes of Max Power, Shinnie, got McLean, a lot of players with Championship experience. Are they still good enough for the Championship? Let's see. I think they will be, though. I think overall, because again, I think Liam Richardson has got a really good feeling there at Wigan Athletic. And I think the star man, Callum Lang, I think it's a bit like Hull City, where I think they will still strengthen between now and the end of the window. But I also think that they've got a couple of players that can kind of get them over the line in games, but there will be a lot of defeats in there as well. Next up, and this could be an absolute mess. They could be one of the surprises of the season. It could go horribly wrong as well, and I'm trying to not be too gammon when it comes to this, but when it's players that you just really don't know that much about, you've got to be wary of that a little bit when it comes to the Saturday, Tuesday nature of the Championship. It is so relentless, and again, I don't know, 7th, 6th to 19th, 20th. I mean, to be honest, to 21st, they're all much of a muchness. I'm going to go with the Hull City in 19th spot. Arveladze, another manager you could so easily see being gone by November if they're not happy. Keane Lewis Potter, of course, has gone. George Honeyman has gone. Two big players to lose, but they seem to be reinvesting that money of Keane Lewis Potter pretty quickly, and you hope successfully. Estupinan has a really exciting record in his last season. Victoria Guimarães, he was playing for 28 appearances, 15 goals, 21% conversion rate, and 7 headers. Looks like they're going to play 2 up front with Sayed Manesh as well, who they spent $4 million on. Nathan Baxter is a quality goalkeeper to bring through as well. Jean-Michel Seri, and as I'm talking, I'm thinking, why am I even putting them 19th? Here's the reason why. I just wonder, have they got the depth? And I also wonder, with Tufan and Seri as a double pivot, have they got enough legs in there? really, enough work rate. Also, it looks like they're going to play 2 strikers, and so in terms of the width, have they got the dynamism from the wing-back positions as well? Those are my question marks, and because there are so many question marks with Hull City, probably been a bit harsh, and I'm going to put them 9th. 18th spot, this could be another team that could really fall even worse than where I'm going to put them, and I think... And I know you guys, there's going to be certain fans that go, oh, why are you always saying this about Huddersfield? I got Huddersfield wrong last year. Massively so. Massively so. But I can't help how I feel in terms of the transfer window this year and the players that have been able to bring through, the losses. If you think of a team that I think was punching above its weight, and if you look at XG, that suggests that as well. They were a team that were very, very strong defensively. And then, you know, the likes of Toffolo, Sorba Thomas was running incredibly hot. I think he's still a very good player. But Lewis O'Brien was just so important to that team. And Lewis O'Brien, Toffolo have both gone. You've lost Levi Colwell as well. You've got Nakayama, who's come through, but he's unproven. Radoni, again, unproven at the championship level. I just think it doesn't spell disaster, but I'm concerned. You've got Danny Schofield, who's untested as a manager at this level. It just feels like you're going to lose a lot there. Look, I like Radoni, for example, and I think they'll be fine. But again, another manager, I'd be surprised if he survives the season, and I think it's going to be a tough one for Huddersfield. Again, the other element is that pattern that you often see with a team that overachieves, gets to that playoff final, doesn't get over the line, and then it hurts them the next year. 17th spot, Cardiff City. Confusion with them as well. A lot of new parts coming in, and I know there's contradictions with the things that I'm saying for different clubs, but I can only go on how I feel. And there isn't a blanket rule when it comes to football. You have to sort of take in a load of different pieces and decide where you want to play your side, all right? Get my back! I just think Steve Morrison, I'm confused about him. I'm not sure if he's up to it or not. I think we'll find out this season, of course. I think if he gets to the end of the year, then I think you should be really happy with that. Because, again, the Championship is brutal. Only scored 33 open play goals from an XG of 39.36 last season. So the creativity is there, you know, like Ruben Colwell, and then some of the players that have been brought in. We talk of Romain Sawyers, who I think is a super talent in the Championship, just seems to be hit and miss with the different clubs that he's been at. Ebu Adams was really, really good for Forest Green Rovers. He's got to do the double jump, as I like to say, into the Championship, but I think he's capable. And Rinon Motta from Reading, another great signing for them in terms of the midfield as well. Joe Rules as well is probably the most important signing of all when it comes to Cardiff. Got nice width. They've got wingers. Can they play 3 at the back, 4 at the back? It looks like it's going to be 3 at the back, but I think they've got the capability to play out wide as well. Need to sign themselves a striker, but they have been very active, and so I think they will go and do that. It's all set up for that, and if they do, I think it will be an enjoyable season, with it being maybe the year before they have that push. And so with that in mind, I think they'll be solid and finish 17th. 16th spot, I'm going to go for Sunderland. I think, look, they need to get a few more through the door, but I think overall the sort of feeling's really good at Sunderland. I think the manager helps. The manager makes a massive difference. I think he's got an incredible backing from the fans there. I think there's an understanding of what he's about, and I think it aligns with Sunderland really well. He steps into the Championship with a confidence. I've spoken to the man, and I really like that about him. There was no bullshit. There was just a solid confidence about him and how he wants his team to play. And that's not in a negative way or a cautious way. It's in a way which utilises what is a team that's full of talent, and a team that has a high ceiling when it comes to players that would step into the Championship. If you think of the likes of Ross Stewart, the likes of Alex Pritchard, Patrick Roberts, Jack Clark, who's come for big money as well. These are players that, yes, they were playing League One last year, but step into the Championship and I think can flourish there. Have the creative spark to do so as well. A lot of players in midfield similar to that as well. Look at the likes of Corey Evans and how far he's developed. Luke O'Nien as well. So I like this squad, and I think they'll do the best out of the promoted sides going into this new season, into the Championship. And I think it'll be enjoyable. I really do. I think it's one where Sunderland fans will inevitably be very nervous about what's happening, but they also still have the owner to be able to spend that bit of money. And in Dan Ballard, I think they've got one hell of a signing at the back, even though they've lost Callum O'Doyle. 15th spot, Blackburn Rovers. It's a funny one with them. You know, you've got John Dale Thomason coming in, who apparently is incredibly progressive, will be quite high pressing, did some great stuff with Malmo. quite an exciting young manager. So not the worst when it comes to recruiting a new manager. And sometimes you kind of hear these names, they come in, you get a bit nervous. I think for Blackburn, it might be one where it's like a year before the year that you go for it. He needs to figure out who he likes, who can play in the system that he wants to play, and decide to sort of make that springboard maybe next season. So this year could be a mid-table one for them. Obviously finished very badly last year, similar to Queen's Park Rangers. And in terms of players that will go out, Joe Rothwell's already gone, of course. He's gone to Bournemouth. That is a huge, huge loss for them. Midfield player in his prime, registered 10 assists for them, 1.7 key passes per 90 as well. You got Ben Brereton Diaz. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? I think, look, you got the likes of Bradley Dack there, that if he is fit and firing, then that does make them a better side. And I don't think it's a bad team, but in terms of the transfer window, not much has happened so far. Ethan Walker's come through, he's a youngster from Preston. Callum Britton from Barnsley, solid right back. But overall, it's a tidy squad that I just don't see pulling up too many trees and not really getting anywhere near the playoffs, which was a bit of a surprise last year in itself. Next up, I'm going to go Bristol City. Now, again, this could be one that I get wrong, and I think actually you can feel gently positive for Bristol City. Look, it's down to Pearson to finally get it going now. He's been poor. The team has been poor in terms of their overall output because there's talent in that side. The problem in particular has been conceding too many goals. In terms of XG, open play XG last year, 55.03 goals in open play XG, which was the third worst in the Championship. Pearson's moved to a back three, which, if you think of the arrivals of Kane Wilson in particular as that right wing back, that's the road that they're going to go down. Cal Naismith as well, really, really strong signing. Player can play in a lot of different positions and brings leadership as well. I think there's some real hope here. You know, Mark Sykes, very tidy, coming from Oxford United, stepping into the Championship. And it might lessen the load on Weimann. They did create a decent amount last year. I think they scored 62, conceded 77. Sort that out, continue on that same run with 60-odd goals, and you've got a team that could finish in the top 10 if it all comes together. But it often doesn't with Bristol City. And so because of that, I think I'm going to put them 14th. I might be wrong on that one. 13th spot, Luton Town. Nathan Jones continues to squeeze every last drop out of this Luton Town squad that he's assembled, and he's assembled it very, very well. A couple of new signings as well I think you can be excited about, and that will be that same intensity that you've seen from Luton Town. So hard working. The likes of Cauley Woodrow coming through. I think Barnsley fans were actually more upset about Carlton Morris leaving Barnsley than Cauley Woodrow last season. Scored 17 goals from set pieces last year, so the addition of Cauley Woodrow will help with that, and Morris is no slouch either. I just think he got so much out of them last year that this year maybe the expectation will be that little bit higher. Maybe the opposition will be that bit more careful when it comes to playing Luton Town, and to recreate that momentum is difficult even for a manager with such energy as Nathan Jones. And because of that, again, I kind of stick to that rule of a team that overachieves will then kind of not regress to the mean, but be a bit more of a mid-table side because of that. And I think because of that, I see them finishing, 13th at the moment. But again, he's always done well, and there is some exciting talent in that Luton squad, so I might be wrong on this one as well. 12th spot, Preston North End. I love Ryan Lowe. I just think he's a great manager, and actually the change last year, bringing him in, which felt a little bit harsh, I think, you know, when you can get a great manager like that, and he was doing so well at Plymouth, did well at Bury before that, getting him in, allowing him to sort of embed what he wants, which is a similar style to that Plymouth style. If you think of the players that are there, we are looking at them differently because of the manager. You know, these aren't stars. The first 11 looks solid. It really, really does. And I like the addition of Freddie Woodman. Emil Rees-Jacobson up top will score goals for them this year as well. The first 11 is strong. Daniel Johnson's always a really solid performer in the Championship as well. Ben Whiteman has looked fantastic under Ryan Lowe. I just struggle with the lack of depth. I think the first 11 is good. I think they'll pick up a lot of scalps this year. And if they stay injury-free, they've got a real chance of doing something pretty special, a bit like a Luton Town. But I just think that the percentages would suggest that they won't have that. And because of that, they won't be able to get themselves into those playoff spots. 11th spot, Stoke City. O'Neill, it's do or die for him now. And actually, I think the more I look at the squad, I think there's always a negativity around Stoke City because the expectations were so high when they came down from the Premier League, and then they disappointed and spent too much money, and they've kind of made the wrong decisions in the transfer market time and again. This time, there's a few where I'm not totally convinced. And one which people will scream at me for is the likes of, say, Dwight Gale. You know, it's a similar thing that Stoke have done in the past. Why are you buying these old dudes? Aidan Flint, similar kind of thing. You know, these are older guys. But that said, when I look at the squad, look at the midfield, look, you need to get Harry Souttar back, sure. But I think there's quality in that squad. I actually think they could make a push. But it's one where there's always just a funny feeling around Stoke City, and that's what kind of feels like it hurts them. They don't seem to have washed that away. But in the likes of Will Smallbone coming through, Dwight Gale, you know, Tyrese Campbell, these are strikers that can score goals. Nick Powell, if he can get fit quickly enough, can make a difference as well. And like I said, Phil Jagielka, Flint, these are solid performers. The midfield's pretty solid as well. Josh Lauren to come through as well. Sam Clucas, Lewis Baker. Like, there's some decent names there. But again, there always seems to be a sort of weird sort of struggle when it comes to Stoke City. And I think that whole feeling needs to change. And maybe that comes from the manager, or does it come from the fans? I think it has to come from the manager. And so O'Neill needs to figure out what his clear structure is, how he wants to play, who his favourites are, and go from there. But they have some quality players there. Kilkenny as well, I'm excited by him. So it's one where if O'Neill can't get the job done, it might be one where you need to get rid, bring someone in who brings in that vigour and energy and gets this team moving. 10th spot, some people are saying these guys could go all the way and sneak into the playoffs. I'm not totally sure. I think it's a lack of creativity that could hurt them. Lots of pressure on Zion Fleming, who's come through, who I think is an exciting prospect, but he's not Jed Wallace. I don't think you're ever going to be able to replace him. Overall, though, if you think of the rigidity of this Millwall side, Gary Rowett makes them very cautious. Sometimes the fans can get frustrated with that, and I think that will probably cost them a playoff place in terms of turning draws into victories, which has been the consistent problem for Millwall. But he does that on quite a shoestring budget. But I like the additions that have come through. I think Zion Fleming, you know, look, it's a record fee for them. So I think someone who comes through in that 23 is the right age. So it's a smart bit of business there. George Honeyman, I think, is a great player for the Championship and a great player for Millwall. There's going to be so much work rate in that midfield with lots of with Jamie Shackleton. Charlie Cresswell as a good left-sided centre-back as well. He's very young, but I think will step in and do well for Millwall, who had a very good defence, as I said. They conceded the second best open play defence last year, only 28 goals conceded. Benakofobi signed on a permanent as well, and now that's his home. I think that's great. You've got a 29-year-old who's ready to score goals for the team as well. I think they'll struggle to get over the line. 15 draws was too much, but I think it'll be a strong season again for Millwall, despite the loss of someone as talismanic as Jed Wallace. Ninth position, I'm going to go with Coventry. Mark Robins continues to improve season on season. I think I read in 442 that they were saying that this guy's becoming the greatest manager they've ever had. Of course, he's got to compete with an FA Cup, but if you think of where he's taken them, it's been just pretty special. When it comes to Coventry City, first of all, I'm a little bit disappointed in the transfer window so far. Yes, they've kept a lot of their best players, and that's great. But I feel like Callum O'Hare will leave. I think he'll go to Burnley. And I think they could get picked off. They need to get some of these loan signings right. This is one of the teams where I think they will bring in a couple of loan signings that will make a huge difference. They already have. Callum Doyle coming through, I think, is a nice one. Jonathan Panzo as well will make them solid at the back. Gyökeres up top, I think he's going to score a lot of goals for them as well. But I could see Gyökeres going in January, and I could see Mark Robins at some point kind of getting poached by a bigger club. It depends on his ambition, I guess. And he's very settled there. But I think it's a good squad, a solid squad. I think there is quality there. You might lose a few, you might gain a few. But overall, I think you're in a safe pair of hands with Robins. And as long as he stays, I think it'll be a nice, good top 10 finish for Coventry this year. 8th position, I'm going to go for Swansea City. Swansea City are another one of those ones where you could go, it could really click and they could really start firing. Because actually, it's a good squad. The more I look at it, it is a really, really solid squad. You got the likes of Obafemi up top, Joel Perreault, one of the best strikers, probably the most talented striker in the league. He's certainly up there for me. Jamie Patterson is a cracking player for them. You've got legs in Jay Fulton. You've lost Flynn Downs, sure, but you've brought in Joe Allen, who I think fits this system perfectly. And it's a system with Ross Martin that it's embedded into the team now. Generally, last season, they had 63% possession of games, so they were dominating games as well. You've got Ryan Manning in that side, Cabango in that side. Harry Darling has come through and will dictate things coming from MK Dons to Swansea City. It's a perfect move for him. He will dictate the tempo for them as well from centre half. I think something could happen there. I really, really do. I think the fact as well is that they will control games of football, and I think that will help them. But with the quality that they've got, Oliver Nitcham as well is there in that squad. Matt Grimes is in that squad. I'm just listing names here, but I think Swansea City are a real kind of under the radar danger this year. They play a unique style, and I think eighth is bang on, really. I think they could do even better than that this year. I think they're a real dark horse. Right, you ready for a shock? Norwich, 7th. Yep, no one's saying this at all, but every single year, one of the teams that goes down really struggles. And I'm looking at this Norwich squad, and it's fine. Decent. It'll definitely be in the top half. Certainly. But it doesn't blow me away. And what I'm seeing from a load of people is that, well, it's Norwich. They go up, don't they? That is the most dangerous thought you can have. And the up and down nature of them, I think that it's feeling a bit stale. It's feeling a little bit lethargic. Do you have Cantwell or not? If you don't, then that's a different side to the team that dominated the Championship. Buendia is certainly not there anymore. Grant Hanley and Gibson, two very, very solid centre-backs in the Championship. I get it. Max Aarons, will he still be there? Timu Puki, yes, of course he'll score goals. But where's the creativity? It's not at the same level as it has been previously. I just don't see it. I just really don't see it. In terms of a team that's going to completely dominate in a league that I think is getting more and more competitive. Teams are getting smarter in terms of their recruitment. I think you've got a really difficult mid-table, as I've said previously in this video. This is my shock. There's always a shock every single year. My one this year will be Norwich City, and they will struggle to get into the playoffs. And I've got them down as 7th. You know why as well. Right, here we go. 6th place, Queen's Park Rangers. Hear me out. Hear me out. Now, I know how poor the second half of last season was. And I've checked this with a couple of people. And when I've explained it to them, they've gone, okay, I get where you're coming from. Of course, I've got bias here. And maybe I'm being too optimistic. But in terms of the players that left last year, very few of them, maybe one, maybe two, Lee Wallace and Moses Odebajo, two players that were in the starting lineup and who we were quite happy with. But one's 34 and one's injury prone. So both of those have gone. We haven't replaced on that right-hand side as of yet. But otherwise, we had a hell of a lot of injuries last year, and we've got Michael Beale come in. Now, Michael Beale has come in, and one thing we know he's got is contacts, and contacts with young, exciting players. And yes, we're a little light up top, but I think we will sort that out. And yes, we don't have that right back sorted out just yet. But again, I think we will sort that out. And then otherwise, this is a team that Michael Beale will want to get his hands on and develop. And I think there's a lot of exciting young players that still at the club aren't going backwards. They're getting better. You got the likes of Taylor Richards coming in with attacking ability. Ilias Chair is getting too good for the division now. Chris Willock, I think most people will say, is getting pretty close to being too good for the division right now. Up front is a problem. I get that. Tyler Roberts comes in, and yes, it's not been great with Leeds, but I think you've still got a player who's played in the Premier League regularly, has gone up in the Championship, and is still young with a point to prove. I think that's a really good thing for us. We've got one of the best midfielders in Sam Field. Johansson on his day is a really, really exciting, creative midfielder as well. Luke Amos is getting better and better year on year. In defence, Rob Dickey is one of the best defenders in the Championship, in my opinion. Jimmy Dunn, I think, is up there as well. Jake Salter, has come through and has looked really good in pre-season as well. Seny Dieng, I think, is one of the best goalkeepers in the division as well. I know I'm probably getting ahead of myself, and maybe the depth isn't totally there. But I think with the players that we're being linked with as well, I think there are teams that make their way up. And this is a team with a squad of young men who I think are a year older, a year wiser, who I think individually will step up. I think the coaching will be, it will show more attacking intensity, a bit more tempo. And I think that cost us at times as well. So I'm getting so excited. And there's always a shock. And I think we're being slept on a little bit. And I think if we bring in one or two, maybe strikers and right backs, I think there's no reason why we can't have a go this year. And it looks like there's a bit of a gap between those top teams. And if you put Norwich City in that top 6, I understand it. But that's very rarely the case. Look at last season. Huddersfield, look at Luton Town. And this year, I think it could be QPR, because I think the age of the squad is really, really nice. And I think there's a pedigree within a lot of those players that finishing mid-table is not acceptable. And I think you've got a manager who's got that same ambition. And I've convinced myself. we're going up. I think we'll get into the playoffs. I think we'll do something. Why not? We do need a striker though. Fifth spot, Burnley. I think the transfer window has been good. I think it's been impressive. I like the age of the players that are coming through as well. I think they have pedigree as well. I think Vincent Kompany's going to utilise his contacts well, and you've also got a strong base of pros that you can trust on. And so it's a team that could go and win this league. I think what puts them back a little bit is, I think, weirdly, the sort of star power of Vincent Kompany will excite the opposition, and I think that will make life harder for them. I also think it's a big change in the identity of the club in terms of how they're going to play. 4-4-2 that Vincent Kompany likes and used at Anderlecht. I think you've got some really important signings in terms of Josh Cullen, Harwood Bellis as well, two players who played at Anderlecht who know this system. But I still think it will take a second to get it going and to get it firing. And so with that in mind, it might be a bit clunky at the start of the season. They'll need to stick with Vincent Kompany. And I think in Scott Twine, you've got a player that could really, really excel. Ian Matson is a good signing, and they're linked with O'Hare from Coventry as well. And I expect if they want that to happen, they will get it done. So you've got some really exciting technical players coming through the door as well. And so overall, I think it will be a good season for Burnley fans who kind of needed this rejuvenation, let's say. But I think it might be one that has some teething problems, and therefore they will finish in the playoff places, but could finish in those automatic places. It's definitely up for grabs for a very solid squad. In fourth spot, I'm going to go for West Brom. Now, obviously, Steve Bruce has had a lot of bad press over the last few years, but he is a manager who knows how to get teams out of the Championship. And this West Brom squad, on paper, I mean, there's no reason why they don't win this whole division, especially with the transfers that they brought in. All three, in particular, John Swift, Jed Wallace, and Yokushlu. Okay, Yokushlu. I mean, three really, really strong signings for them. And I think that will provide goals. My only concern with them is a lack of pace. I think there is a severe lack of pace here. But I think Steve Bruce will be able to find a way to get around that. I think with top quality crossing, you've got the likes of Alex Mowat in there as well. So there should be great delivery from everywhere. Daryl DK coming back as well. I think he signed in January but barely played. Got real size, this team as well. So it kind of fits what probably Steve Bruce would want to put forward. Even though it might be quite simple tactics, let's say. But overall, I think they're going to be incredibly hard to beat. I think they'll be very good at set pieces, and I think they'll have a really strong season this year. And therefore, I think with the long throws of Darnell Furlong as well, I think they're just going to be a horrible team to come up against, and I think they'll be very solidly poised in the playoff places. And again, another team that could easily get in the automatic promotion places if they hit the right rhythm. Third spot, I'm going to go for Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough, because Chris Wilder, similar to Ryan Lowe, got into that team and was able to kind of really embed what he wants to do and how he wants to play. And if you think of the likes of Ryan Giles coming through, now on the left-hand side with Isaiah Jones on the right-hand side, I think it's a team that knows what it's going to be doing. I think the intensity that Chris Wilder brings, the certainty that he brings to a squad. When I watched them, I was very impressed with them as well. And there's a massive, massive gaping hole up top. They need to go and get that striker, but they will. They will go and get that striker. I think they're waiting for the right loan move, and I think they'll go and get that done. And it's the manager for me. I think that's the big change. I think to bring him in, if you can get a clinical striker, it's just a team that will create chances, score chances, very difficult midfield as well. And I think a team that other opposition will kind of think they've got an opportunity against, but will then get picked off by Chris Wilder and his side. And I think, again, another team that maybe if the cynicism of football occurs and it's the team that spends the most money and has that, that squad down with the parachute payments, maybe it's one where Middlesbrough will start to struggle a little bit and maybe won't have that depth. But even Zach Stefan coming through as a goalkeeper in place of Lumley, massive upgrade there as well. I just think it's going to be a really strong season for Chris Wilder's men this year. Right, we're into the top two now. Can you remember which two are left? Let's find out. Watford. I'm going for Watford to finish second. I think they've got... You never know what's going to happen with Watford, but you kind of do as well, if that makes sense. And I think, although they don't sort of have a lot of well-known names a lot of the time, I think when the closer you look at the squad, it's got a good amount of experience there. It's got championship experience. It's got depth. It's got depth in the centre-back positions as well. You've got João Pedro up top, who's too good for this division. Maybe not good enough for the Premier League, but very, very good. Emmanuel Dennis has been playing in these pre-season games, so you wonder if he's actually going to stay for the season. Ismaila Sarr, I was looking at some of the teams in the Premier League. He would be a good fit for some of these Premier League teams. Fulham in particular, I think he might be a nice little shout for, or Leicester City as well was another one. But overall, you've got the likes of Camara on the left-hand side. I just think there's a lot of quality in this Watford team. And I think Rob Edwards will actually be a nice sort of foil for what always feels like a very precarious job. I think he was very impressive in terms of his man management. I always liked hearing him speak as well for Forest Green last year, and of course finished as champions as well. There will be some big changes, and it'll be a change of a setup because he likes to play that three at the back. But I think he'll get there. And I think they will get there. And I think they would sort of grind down teams, be very good. And you've got likes of Cleverley coming in, Dan Gosling if you need him as well. I think there's quality there. And I think, once again, although it's maybe a little bit boring, I expect Watford to finish in those automatic promotion places. So here we go. Sheffield United, I think, will win the Championship this year. I think if they can retain Sander Berge, and from the things I've read, it looks like he will stay. It's a very, very strong midfield. And it's a very, very strong defence. Amo Hodzic has come through, an amazing signing for Sheffield United at the back there. Tommy Doyle as well, I think is going to really, really purr for Sheffield United this year. Yes, I get it. Up top, they are a little bit short. But weirdly, the way I'm looking at it, I think it's a team that kind of built momentum over the season. Heckingbottom knows what to do to get the best out of it. It's a lovely mix between young players and older players. I think there's still something to be seen from Ryan Brewster as well. And I think it's so obvious that up front they need that little addition. I think they'll go and do it. I think they'll go and find that player again as well. And I know this is an easy thing to say. You've even got the quality of, say, Jebison as well. I think who can offer more this season as well. I just think it's a really, really strong team from the back through. I think they'll control games as well. Heckingbottom really did get them fit and firing when he came in. I just think they'll do it. I really do. I think they feel settled. I think sometimes you need to go down, have that season to kind of acclimatise to the altitude of the Championship, and then you go again. And I think Sheffield United will do it because I think, you know, again, I'm shooting in the dark a little bit here, but teams will improve. And even Norwich, right? I've gone with Norwich as a team that might struggle this year. They might bring in some players. They might make those big moves. You know, they spent money on a player from Sao Paulo who has 33 touches a game. I don't really understand what they're doing there. Anyway, now's not the time, James. Sheffield United. I think Sheffield United will go and do something this year. I think it's their year. Yes, it's congested at the top there. Yes, there's a lot of money there. But that was pretty close to a Premier League squad, in my opinion. Certainly a squad that's too good for the Championship last year. And obviously they went out in the semi-finals on penalties. I think they're going to have a great year. I think they're going to go and do it. And I think they're going to win the Championship. It's an outside shout, but I've gone with it. So there you have it, guys. What do you think of my season predictions? Where have I got it right? Where have I got it wrong? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, please do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell as well. Thank you so much for watching. It's going to be a great season. Hopefully, you're going to join me for it. I'll see you in the next one.